honestly believe that this right here, what you were about to see or what you clicked on, was 100% a setup.
Touch this, right? I'm going to walk away and none of you are going to touch this because I have such control over your reality. I can put something obvious right in front of you and you're not even going to know and you're too scared to say anything. And the thing that you're too scared to say is that she should not be playing Juliet. Like, come on. Like, she's not that, but it's like, come on, like, why would you make me think that?
A lot of harassment sent towards Francesca. Things like saying Romeo and Juliet movie, then versus now, they're rewriting history. Romeo and Juliet is a play, not a movie. And the first actor to play Juliet was actually a man. And you don't care about the adaptation differences because I doubt people didn't care when they made a garden gnome version of Romeo and Juliet. So this has nothing to do with rewriting history. It just has to do with plain racism. It got so bad that the Jamie Lloyd Company actually made a statement saying, following the announcement of our Romeo and Juliet cast, there has been a barrage of deplorable racial abuse online directed towards a member of our company. This must stop. You can pause to read the rest of it. But I just love that this has become so successful. It is totally sold out and now reportedly being moved to Broadway. And I really hope they keep as much of the original cast as possible.
So everybody out there right now is crying that everybody who's protesting this situation is racist. And I think that they're actually missing the big picture here. Now, I'm going to be talking a little bit about Romeo and Juliet a little bit more on the other side. But seeing how it is that 800 some odd people have decided to join in solidarity with said individual. And of course, a lot of people are also looking at said individual who's playing Juliet, and they've automatically deduced that this version of Juliet looks a lot like Mercutio from the 1996 version of Romeo and Juliet. It's pretty obvious the real reason why it is that people are going after this or making fun of it or knocking it. And I don't think it's got to have anything to do with anything involving the fact that Juliet is black, as I'll explain on the other side of this next clip that I'm about to show you guys. The truth be told is this here. There are other reasons why it is that this particular film, or this particular version of this film, which is actually a play, is, let's just say there are other reasons why it is that it's getting ripped apart, and it's got nothing to do with the actual race, as I'll explain on the other side, like I said before. But still, as you guys are obviously seeing from the photos here, that this is not exactly what we call a flattering version of Juliet. But let's watch this first, and I'll explain more so on the
online
other side.
racial abuse of Francesca Amawuda Rivers, who was recently cast as Juliet in a London West End production of Romeo and Juliet alongside Tom Holland. The letter, published in The Guardian on Wednesday, was the initiative of Enola Holmes actor Susan Wokoma and Crowning Glory playwright Somalia Noni Seaton. It reads, when news of Francesca Amawuda Rivers casting in Jamie Lloyd's production of Romeo and Juliet was announced, so many people celebrated and welcomed this news. Many of us took to social media to shower our baby sis with love and congratulations. A huge deal for someone so young in their career. A huge rising talent. But then what followed was a too familiar horror that many of us visible black dark-skinned performers have experienced. The racist and misogynistic abuse directed at such a sweet soul has been too much to bear. For a casting announcement of a play to ignite such twisted, ugly abuse is truly embarrassing for those so empty and barren in their own lives that they must meddle in hateful abuse. Among the 883 signatories are Lashana Lynch.
I really hate to be a jerk, but this right here, this particular photo of her almost looks a lot like Paul Stanley from Kiss. I'm sorry. There are so many options here that you could have gone with, especially options that are black, that you could have actually gone with besides this person here. And of course, if you point this out, you're going to be called racist. Of course, if you also point this out, you're going to be called a misogynist. But still at the same time, this to me just feels like a bit of a setup. So yeah, we're going to be here for a minute discussing this because obviously I have not done pop culture in a while. And once again, we're being given the good old-fashioned case of representation in film and whatnot. And of course, the mainstream media is running with the fact that everybody is supposedly racist because they don't like the idea of a black Juliet, even though there are several actresses that you could have used that would have been a little bit more acceptable that are in fact black. Contrary to all the reactions that you guys are going to be seeing here in a second, three in particular that I'm going to be going after, let's just say over the course of this video, I want to go ahead and say this. Chances are, if you at any point in time ever went to high school, chances are you were obviously exposed to the works of Shakespeare, regardless of what it is, whether it would be Macbeth or whether it would be Hamlet or Romeo and Juliet, which, by the way, is obviously the pretty standard, basic Shakespeare story. I need to go ahead and say this. All Shakespeare plays, back in the days when Shakespeare was alive, the women or the female characters were obviously played by men. This is something that, quite frankly, was pointed out. And of course, some people were sitting here screaming, there's obviously no problem, no issue with the current makeup or the current situation that's going on with this film starring Tom Holland and this girl here. And of course, a lot of people were already pointing that out. And I understand the reason why. I'm pretty sure if you actually go back into history, most people will see that obviously the female characters in those plays were all played by men. However, that's not the case here. Then you've got the case of people who are screaming that people who are making videos about this are basically screaming, oh, they don't like it because the girl is black. Look, here's the thing. There are a lot of very attractive black actresses that could have been used. And I'm showing you guys some photos here. And one of these photos, of course, comes from Rolling Stone, who, by the way, loves to carry the woke left-leaning line. And the photo that they chose obviously did not make this girl look flattering. Now, it could be camera angles. It could be the day of the week. It could be anything and everything. I'm not here to comment on that. I'm just simply saying that if you actually go through Twitter and you actually look at the comments, the number one thing that people are going after, and obviously we know that Twitter, X is not real life, but the number one thing that people are mentioning is the fact that this person here is not attractive. Now, some have argued that Tom Holland should ask for his money back or ask to be removed from the role, or maybe he should pound sand because obviously he would not be happy about this particular situation. Now, before somebody says that... well, I'll just put it this way, or before somebody comes in here and says, your problem is with black women, I want to go ahead and give you guys a bit of a history lesson really quick. During the time, the James Bond movies, or when they first got started in the 1960s, it was Connery, and then eventually it was Lazenby for one film, and then eventually it went back to Connery for the film Diamonds Are Forever. Then, of course, you had Roger Moore. There was a bit of a split, okay? That split, of course, was between 1983 and 1986, where Sean Connery had just starred in the film Never Say Never Again. However, it is widely believed that Sean Connery, and I could be getting a part of the story wrong, but don't worry, I will be getting this aspect of the story 100% correct. There was a role that Sean Connery, a Bond film, which of course we would later on find out that that film was A View to a Kill, starring Roger Moore. Sean Connery obviously turned down the opportunity to star along Grace Jones. Grace Jones, by the way, is the lady that was pretty much, for the most part, shacking up with Dolph Lundgren in his earlier days when he first came to the United States. That's a different story altogether. Maybe I'll leave the TED Talk in the description box where Dolph Lundgren kind of explains that. But still, at the same time, though, Sean Connery, the word was that Sean Connery, or the controversy was that Connery did not want to star in that film because he would be kissing a black woman. Well, Roger Moore came right on in, and he didn't have a problem, even though in the film A View to a Kill, she's not the actual Bond girl. She's actually the Bond villainess, because Christopher Walken's actually the real villain in that film, and Grace Jones is his girlfriend. But still, it required a kiss. It required a bedroom scene. It required that type of stuff there. And, of course, people were, or at least Sean Connery, wasn't comfortable with that. Now, obviously, Tom Holland is obviously very comfortable being around women of color because obviously he has starred in films where the love interest was a woman of color. Hence the reason why it is that a lot of people are looking at this and they're saying, look, man, you could have chosen Zendaya. Beyonce Knowles is a very, very attractive woman of color. Even though obviously she's older than Tom Holland, she still looks very good for her age. Speaking of that the other day I did a video where Charlemagne the God was talking about DEI and how it was really just corporate BS. And of course he talked about not just that, but he brought up Halle Bailey, the girl who played Ariel in the live action remake of The Little Mermaid with the red hair and whatnot. And people were ripping it left and right. I even did a couple of videos ripping it, having some fun with it. Still at the same time, Halle Bailey, the girl who played Ariel, attractive black girl, could have used her. Nobody is getting on this film because this film has a black Juliet. They're getting on this film because this version of Juliet looks a lot like Paul Stanley from Kiss. But those TikToks.
Ugly. But let's say, for argument's sake, they cast a white woman who is not your ideal of beauty. You would not be this pressed about her casting. You probably just wouldn't care. Nobody would be concerned that the Juliet they casted for a West End production of Romeo and Juliet is ugly. The reason people are angry is because she's a dark-skinned black woman. Because she does not fit the ideals of what you believe are the beauty standard. Francesca is a gorgeous woman, and it is about race. Don't say it's not about race, because it so clearly is.
She looks like Mercutio from the 1996 version of the film. The original version, the girl who played Juliet in that film, by today's standards would be viewed to be, I guess you could say, pretty, somewhat attractive. Look, the point is this right here. Juliet needs to be a girl that looks like a girl that Romeo would ultimately off himself for. If you guys remember the play, then you would know what happens is at the end, Romeo takes a poison because Juliet is believed to be dead, even though she's actually faking her death. Juliet wakes up, sees that Romeo is dead. Of course, a moment, this, that, and the other. Not going to go too much in detail. And then ultimately daggers herself. They can't live without one another. They're star-crossed lovers. It needs to be somebody that, quite frankly, would fit the mold that Romeo would want to kind of jump for. That's kind of the point. I have a hard time seeing Romeo jumping for Mercutio. Just saying. Let's watch the next one.
For black actors, playing a character that is beloved or quote unquote classical, that is white, is never worth the squeeze. As far as the racial vitriol and hatred and bigotry that they encounter just by doing their job and getting the role. It's never worth it.
Zendaya, Zoe Saldana. Zazie Beetz. Yes, Zazie Beetz. That's actually a very good-looking woman of color. I'm not saying you had to use a white girl. Nobody's saying it. We just said that just use a girl that's attractive, even though she's black. You could bring Tyra Banks' old ass back and make her look young. Come on now. Look, the point is this here. Juliet needs to look like a girl that Romeo would do what he does. You know what I'm saying, at the very end. Yeah, it makes me think about the story of the Iliad, Helen of Troy, the face that launched 1,000 ships. It's got to be that, not this. Some of these photos, by the way, that they've put out of this girl are not exactly what we call flattering. I understand that. I get that. There's even a couple where she looks like she's got a bit of something going on above her. And like I said, the Rolling Stone one, the haircut, jerry curl, that looks like kind of a guy. Just saying. So no, race ain't got nothing to do with it. Looks does.
Band, and I'll tell you why. There's a new Romeo and Juliet movie that's coming out this year starring Tom Holland and a young actress by the name of Francesca Rivers. She's a young black actress. I don't know who she is. I've never seen her before, but God, the comments in these videos on this fucking app, the disgusting racist comments. Just look up 2024 Romeo and Juliet on this app and go through the comment section of the people that are posting these videos, the disgusting things that they are saying about this young black woman, saying Romeo and Shaquisha, Romeo and food stamps, Romeo and Section 8. What the actual fuck? When half of those motherfuckers that are commenting are probably on Section 8 food stamps and whatever else. But it's just a disgusting racism. And this is coming from grown ass.
Mean tweets. Mean tweets. People giving out mean tweets. You know, at some point in time, you got to understand that Twitter, X, oftentimes they aren't real life. One of the reasons why it is that people post those things, they know that they can post those comments because they know that they're probably not going to get. It's like one of the few places that people can actually be a troll at. And as I said before, there are a lot of different people that you could have chosen to play this role, or the role of Juliet, and it could have let's just say this right here, it probably would have actually worked out a lot better. But still at the same time, though, if you want to be a purist about it, let's go ahead and give the purist argument. And before people come in here and say, dude, who are you one to talk, man? You are one ugly SOB. Yes, I am. All right, I'm not the most attractive guy in the world. I'm not. I never said I was. However, the thing is this right here. Men just need to look presentable. Okay? We just need to look presentable. We haven't got to be Adonises. We haven't got to be beautiful. Okay? And I understand that women, for the most part, I understand. Sometimes you can help it, sometimes you can't. But the studio, which is designed to put together films that are supposed to be desirable to look at, you could have gone in different directions. I mean, as I said before, even though they're a little bit older than Tom Holland, Zoe Saldana, Zazie Beetz, even Halle Berry's old ass is attractive. Could have made her look attractive. Zendaya, hasn't Tom Hardy played opposite her? I'm just saying that's the controversy here. You want a black Juliet? Go right ahead, put a black Juliet out there. Just make sure she's freaking attractive. I mean, that role right there kind of denotes that the girl be attractive. She needs to at least be somewhat desirable and not look like Paul Stanley from Kiss. I mean, to tell you the truth, if you look at that picture of her with the afro, you kind of think to yourself, that could be any member. That could be Gene. Seriously. Hey, race is always going to be the issue in today's society, I guess. I mean, as I said before, though, you can name off a lot of very, very attractive women of color. I got to say the names over and over and over again. Zoe Saldana, Zazie Beetz. I mean, even, I understand she's old as dirt, but Tyra Banks still looks good for her age. I mean, dude, there are so many other much, much more beautiful women in Hollywood. Like I said before, you could even use Halle Bailey, the girl from The Little Mermaid. But of course, if you point this out, they're going to immediately say it's the race thing, when obviously it's the fact that this chick, like I said before in my little rant, looks like a member of Kiss. Also, and I got to say it one more time too, Rolling Stone magazine carries the woke line. For whatever reason, they choose to use the worst absolute photo they could use of said girl, which kind of asserts the points that we're going with. But then again, though, maybe that right there was their whole objective. I mean, she looks like the guy who played Mercutio in the 1996. I mean, I understand that a lot of this video, of course, is me just ranting and saying the same thing over and over again. But obviously, this right here was, in fact, a setup, almost like a great big giant work. Now, if you have the role of Martin Luther King, you're going to do a film on him, obviously you're going to want a black actor. If you're going to do the role of Malcolm X, you're obviously going to want a black actor. If you're going to want to do the role of, say, Cleopatra, which, by the way, was a controversy, then obviously you're going to want to use somebody who's probably either A, Egyptian-looking, or B, Greek, not someone who's black, contrary to what the old grandma said. The point is this right here. Obviously, in film, you're obviously going to want a much, much better representation depending on the time frame. Romeo and Juliet obviously is not a historical epic, okay? That's not the case. So obviously, therefore, you can do a little bit of leeway. But if you want to be an actual purist, then maybe someone who's Veronese or Italian would be the right person to play Juliet. But then again, though, at the same time, seeing how it is that we are doing a spin on it, kind of like in 1996 where they did the spin that starred Claire Danes as Juliet and Leonardo DiCaprio as Romeo. People forget that's one of his first films, or one of the first films he got big for. This is after the film Basketball Diaries. It was right before Titanic, where his career really took off. Then he just disappeared for a little bit, and he come back to Blood Diamond, which I personally think is actually his best film. The thing is this right here. In that particular version, obviously, Mercutio, a black Mercutio, was used. So nobody really had a problem with it, especially back in 1996, because they knew it was kind of an updated version of it that was kind of focused on newer music. Guns were called swords, stuff like that there. So nobody really truly got upset about it. As a matter of fact, the Veronese, the people who were playing the Capulets, Tybalt's crowd, which you would have thought would have been Italian, they were all Hispanic. But still, at the same time, the thing is this right here. At least the people in that film looked attractive. I didn't think, I'm just saying that at least the people in that film looked presentable. The problem that people have, of course, is obviously the girl who's playing Juliet is not exactly the type of girl that Romeo would want to, himself over. That right there is the real controversy, and this is one of the reasons why it is that so many people online, including myself now, have said that we believe this entire thing was set up to get rage clicks, rage bait, to try to paint people in a very, very negative light. I'm not saying the movie was a setup. I'm saying all the reporting was a setup. But then again, at the same time, you got to kind of think to yourself, if you were going to go in this direction with Juliet, especially this version of Juliet being this, then obviously, as I said before, at the end of the day, it's just going to lead to people laugh. I don't even think it's going to get laughed at. I think what's going to happen in this case is that this film right here is going to get released and nobody's going to want to watch it. So yeah, if I was Tom Holland, I'd be pissed off and I'd want to just walk the hell off the set. This right here is not exactly what we call a good look. Look, if I had to look at that right there as my lead co-star, if I got to kiss that there, I probably would demand a little bit more money. That's all I'm saying. Guys, tell me what you think. I already know this video here is going to piss off a lot of people. I really and truly don't care, but still at the same time, though, please tell me what you think. Please hit the like button, subscribe, share that video, all that type of stuff. I got one more video coming out on Friday, and of course, we're going to be talking about the weekend, too, in the next video, so make sure you guys, please, once again, like button, subscribe, share the video, try to laugh at it, and I'll see you guys later.